Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? It is Thursday, the 12th of January. Welcome once again to another class of PLAR history and geography here at WASA in Silico. Once again, my name is Jonathan. I am your teacher for this course. We are at the end of week number 7. This is still term 1B. We have 2 more weeks left in this term, 1B, and then we'll have our little break where we have a midweek, and then we'll get started again with term 2A. Like always, feel free to listen and participate by calling in the WASA studio if you want to listen live and partake in this class right now. You can either call in at your Learn Center in your community if it's open at this time, or you can call in at home if you have service to that. If not, you can always log on to Smart Bridget as well. You can still listen and watch what we're posting on my smartboard screen. Once again, at any point, you can always get in touch with me by phone call, email, and Facebook. Okay, again, if you have any questions with your assignments, any comments, concerns, questions, just let me know. I'm here to help. Again, if you have missed any class content materials, again, it was always posted on the archive page and my YouTube channel as well. Over the next 60 minutes or so, we will discuss the following topics in terms of lesson number 5. We'll talk about more about what is a region. We'll talk about the weather. We'll talk about types of trees and Canada's ecozones. So that's our topic for today. That's the direction where we are heading. So we're almost done this course. We're almost done this term. So again, just want to encourage everyone to continue to work on your assignments, even though there's no official due date. Again, if you're not done by this end of this term, it is okay. Just continue where you left off, but hopefully we can get that all done very, very soon. Again, if you need any other additional help in terms of assignments, like for example, if you want a USB stick with all of the textbook, workbook, assignments, contents, uh, last term lessons, just let me know. I can upload all that onto a USB stick and I can send it to you to your community absolutely for free on the Express. So let's get to today's class learning goal and see where we are headed in terms of today's direction for our class. So again, just remind our learning goal is the direction where we're heading. It's what we are learning together. So today's class learning goals are we are learning to expand our knowledge on a region or our knowledge and understanding on the term or definition of a region. Yes, we have talked about what is the region. We have defined what is the region, so we should have an understanding of what is a region. We gave multiple examples of different characteristics or categories that can fall under a region. But today we are going to expand on that just a little bit more. Next, we will be talking about and we will be learning about the weather. Okay, I'm not a weatherman or weather forecast, but we're going to talk about the weather. So if you can open your door or look out your window, that should help in terms of today's class as well. And finally, we are learning about types of trees. Okay, types of trees. Last class on Tuesday, we learned about types of rocks. Today, we're going to dive into looking at trees. Interesting, but we're going to talk a little about trees, and I'll try to integrate some indigenous content that relates to trees as well. So that's the direction we are heading for today's class. Not a huge lesson, but that's where we're heading. Success criteria. So again, this is what we hope to achieve. So by the end of today's class, over the next 60 minutes, hopefully you can define a functional region. You can, or I can, explain the difference between weather and climate. And I can explain the difference between coniferous and deciduous trees. And I can explain characteristics of Canada's ecozones. Okay, so that's where we are hope to achieve by the end of today's class. All right, a functional region. So if you have your textbook in front of you, you can flip to page 47. That's where we will start today. So again, a functional region, a little definition that we will explain is in your textbook, and I will give lots of examples as well. So basically, a functional region, we can break it down in terms of defining it as what is functional that relates to a region. Functional regions defines and often develop around a center or a focal point. Okay, developed around a center or a focal point. So something that makes that particular area something that makes it stand out. A functional region has a focal point, often a city, and its organized space around that has a central location. So example can be any major city all around the world. So if we look, for example, of United States, New York City is a big city, Chicago, LA, the San Francisco area, those can all be example of a functional region where it attracts lots of people. Okay, so think of an area or a city that has lots of people, and it can be defined as a functional region because it serves many services and purposes that helps a lot of people. Here in Canada, uh, Toronto, it's a big major city. Ottawa, Winnipeg nearby, those are all can be classified as functional regions. Okay, any area that has service, uh, market areas, stores, districts, schools, those can all be defined as functional regions or functional area. Or any area that function that has cell phone service. So if you have cell phone service in your community, sure, it can be defined as a functional region. But if you're driving in the middle of nowhere, that is not a functional region. It does not have cell phone service. There's no people. There's no homes. There's no cities. That is not a functional area or a functional region. So again, airport here in Silico, that can be a particular functional region or functional area. We have a newspaper here in Silico, so again, our little community of ours can be defined as a functional region because we do serve many purposes for northern communities. Again, the CN Tower, Toronto. Over here we have the Fort William Garden located in Thunder Bay, where the LU Thunderwolves play hockey. Again, it's a particular area that attracts people, that brings people together. Okay, so hopefully, again, lots of examples in terms of a functional region or a functional area. I've always given an example of national parks. So, for example, Banff National Park out west in Alberta, and Kakabeka Falls just outside of Thunder Bay. Also can be example of a functional region or functional area where it attracts lots of human activities and so much more, and it brings a lot of opportunities as well. Okay, so hopefully you can make that little connection in terms of that definition defines and often develop around a center and a focal point. So think back in terms of in your community, what is a functional region or a functional area in your community? It could be a school. It could be a playground. It could be a center where people gather. Okay, and those can be defined as a functional region or functional area. In terms of a region, we're just thinking larger, not so much large, small scale, but we're thinking bigger pictures. Okay, big pictures in terms of big cities that have lots to offer. Continuing with national parks. Again, Canada has 39 national parks, roughly about 10% of our land surface that is under protection and conservation. National parks are great because it's great for tourism, ecological purposes, ecosystem protection. It provides knowledge and understanding and how we appreciate breathtaking scenery that it has to offer, and some even tell Aboriginal knowledge as well. Since we're in a brand new year, it's 2017, which marks Canada's 150th birthday, or 150 years since Canada joined Confederation back in 1867. So, some of you may have known or have heard on the news or read papers on articles that this year all national and provincial and historical sites are for free if you have something known as this Discovery Pass. Okay, you can order this Discovery Pass online. You can simply just show it when you show up at the national park, provincial park, or any of Canada's historical sites, and you can get admission for absolutely for free. So again, great opportunity this year for traveling, exploring Canada's what Canada has to offer in terms of coast to coast to coast. So again, 2017 this year is Canada's 150th anniversary of Confederation, and as a little token, as a little gift from Canada, we can explore these little areas in terms of national and provincial parks for absolutely for free. In terms of how we enter, okay, but we still have to pay for other admissions if you want to do other activities. So just keep that in mind. Great opportunity in terms of this year. Again, that relates back in terms of a functional region or a functional area where it attracts a lot of people, where it has many opportunities and activities to explore and to do. So again, very, very unique as well. Moving along, we're going to talk about weather and climate. We're going to try to explain the difference between the two definitions. Okay, we have heard weather before, we have heard climate before, but what does it actually mean? Some may be confused in terms of how it relates to one another, how it could mean the same thing, but in terms of a broader understanding, it is quite different. So let's pause for a moment. Let's open up the internet and let's turn to the weather network. Okay. So let's look at the current weather right now and let's try to see what's the weather like right now. So yes, right now here in Silico, for those local, it is -22, feeling like -30 with the wind chill and other factors according to the weather network. Yes, it's really cold, so hopefully everyone is bundled up and staying nice and warm. Wind gust is about 11 kilometers from the south. Again, very important in terms of forecasting the weather. We can also predict long-term range weather patterns. According to again the weather network, it is going to be absolutely cold this evening and tonight and even tomorrow morning, and that does not look like fun. Feeling close to minus 36, minus 40. Oh boy, that's not going to be fun. In terms of long range pattern, it's supposed to warm up next week. Not by much, but we're back into the single digits in terms of minus 7. Oh, it just refreshed. And so far, it should be a lot of sunny coming up, but it's going to be a bit cold. So that's what it's like in terms of myself analyzing the weather network in terms of the weather in Suluco. What's the weather like in your community? I'm sure it's still freezing cold like us here in Suluco, but is it sunny? Is it snowing? Is it super windy? Okay, all those factors come into play when looking at weather. So let's go back into our notes and look at the definition of weather. So weather is the day-to-day condition of the atmospheric conditions. Okay, it's the day-to-day conditions. Conditions of the air in a particular place on a particular day. Okay, keep that in mind. Particular place on a particular day. So even though it's freezing cold right now in Suluco, it may not be freezing cold in your community, for example. In other words, weather is basically like what it's like outside. So again, feel free to look out your window. I don't recommend opening your window. You can always open the door and step out and have a sense, but again, it's basically what it's like outside. Again, temperatures, whether or not it's sunny, windy, snowing, rain, cloudy, and so much other factors as well come into play. That is weather. Okay, weather changes hourly, it changes daily, it doesn't stay the same consistently. Sure, there are some factors that are consistent, but it changes absolutely every day, and it changes from location to location and communities to communities. So just keep that in mind. So in other words, I like to classify weather as a short-term condition. Why? Because it is always changing. Okay. Sure, it is slightly snowing right now, but in 30 minutes, it could be super sunny. We do not know. Okay. Weather is very unique. Meteorologists studies the atmosphere and use the information to analyze and forecast the weather to help us commuters and everyday people for everyday purposes. Whether or not we're walking to school, whether or not we're driving to work in our community, whether or not we're traveling to make sure our flight's not delayed or canceled, all that come into play. What we want to wear this morning, what we want to wear today. Obviously, it's minus 30 or so. We don't want to be wearing t-shirt and flip-flops and shorts. Again, that all come into play. So going back to the weather network. Okay, so again, meteorologists, they do all this for us where they forecast and predict the weather. Again, sometimes they are accurate, sometimes they're not. Again, weather changes daily. So again, meteorologists predict that next week here in Silico, it's going to slightly warm up just a bit in terms of -7, -4, -3, and so forth. Okay, so we'll see whether or not that's true, but that's how they're analyzing and predicting the forecast. So sure, maybe we can wear our t-shirts and light hoodies next week if it's slightly warm. So that is weather. So again, it could be different in your community, but that is what the weather's like for here in Silico. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of what is weather, how we define weather. Again, it's a day-to-day condition in a particular place on a particular date, what it's currently like outside at that particular moment. Again, all that varies and all that changes. climate. Okay, climate. Climate, it's slightly different. Okay, climate is defined as the average of all weather condition over the entire year or over a century. Okay, over decades or even centuries. Okay, it's the average weather. Okay, average. Okay, it is the average weather of a particular area or a particular community or particular region. It does not describe any particular date or events, but climate can be defined as long term. Okay, so that's the difference between weather and climate. Climate is a long term effects. So example, in the Arctic region or in the North Pole, the climate there is often very cold. We have data and evidence over the entire year or even decades before that is often very, very cold. We have evidence that in deserts it's really, really warm and hot and dry. That's the climate in that area. Again, in California, again, the climate there is often warm. It does not get very cold or snow at all. Here in northwestern Ontario and Silicon in our communities, our climate can be defined as cold, especially during the winter seasons. Okay, so again, sure we had a warmish, a very nice November, even though this past November should have been cold. We should have lots of dumping of snow, but that wasn't the case. But on average, it should have been. It should have been. Okay, another example, again, maybe in March, maybe in April, we should have nicer spring-like conditions and weather. However, we still may get lots of snow, but on average, that's the weather, that's the climate. Okay, so again, hopefully that explains the difference between weather and climate. Again, think of it as short-term conditions and long-term conditions. Okay, weather it changes often. We could have snow in August, okay, in whatever reason, but that doesn't change the climate at all. Again, climate and weather, it's all in your textbook shortly on page 47 as well. Moving along once again, we're going to move on to looking at trees. Yes, we're going to look at types of trees. Again, this all begins on page 47, and you can flip the page to 48 as well. So I'm going to look at two types of trees, coniferous and deciduous trees. Okay, we're going to talk about both types. Do have some illustrations and pictures, and we'll try to see the difference so that we can explain and know the difference between each one. Okay, coniferous and deciduous trees, or forests for that matter. We shall begin looking at coniferous trees or coniferous forests. So, we all have seen trees. We know what trees are. We have seen many different types of trees. We may even have a tree in our backyard or at our school or everywhere else. Okay, but a coniferous tree or conifer forest is unique in a particular way. It has a cone right here. It has needle-like leaves like this. Okay, so any trees that has a cone or a pine cone or needle-like leaves, for example, that can be an example of coniferous trees. Seed that produce cones. These trees and these types of forests often like to thrive in cold temperature. They're often called evergreen because they stay green all year long. An example could be a cedar tree, a pine tree, and a spruce tree. Again, I'm no expert in trees. I do not have a degree in forestry, so I don't know lots about trees. But to simplify the definition of a coniferous tree or coniferous forest, any tree that has a cone or a needle-like leaves or is often green all year long, boom, that is a coniferous tree. So again, do you see any coniferous trees in your community? Is there one in your backyard? Is there one nearby? Okay. Here in our region of Northwestern Ontario, we are known for having lots of coniferous trees and coniferous forests. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, but again, think of its characteristics. What makes it stand out? Again, you don't need to know the types of trees. It's not just a cedar, a pine, and a spruce. There's so much more. But again, think of any trees that stay green, that has a cone, that has needle-like leaves. Boom, that is a coniferous tree. Therefore, a deciduous tree, it's not so much the opposite, but it has different characteristics. Deciduous tree or deciduous forests are trees that produce leaves and their leaves fall to the ground, especially in the fall season. Okay, where they shed the leaves, especially in the fall. So again, think of any tree, or do you know any tree? Do you see any trees that has no leaves at the moment? Or do you know a tree that often changes color or loses leaves? Okay, that tree, whether or not you know its name or not, is a deciduous tree. Okay, it falls under this category of a deciduous tree. Okay, a deciduous tree or forest, again, hot season, short winters. It can be grown in all four seasons. So here in Silico, we have a combination of both types of trees. It needs good soil, good fertile soil to grow. However, there are there could be said there are few remain due to clear cutting, due to urban growth and urbanization. So again, these trees are, being sacrificed for other purposes as well. Examples, a maple tree, an oak tree, a birch tree. But again, there's so much more, so much more. So again, changes color. So again, awesome to look at during the fall season where people take pictures, post it on their social media, Instagram account. Whether or not you have raked leaves before, again, you can think all that to a deciduous tree. Again, it can change color to brown, yellow, orange, red, very visually appealing. Whereas the previous slide, a coniferous tree, well, these guys just stay green all year long. They don't change color. They just have needles and cones as coniferous trees. So again, note the name for each trees and note some of the characteristics of each one. Okay. Again, you don't need to know all the names. That's not what we're here for. But our goal is to be able to classify, or as we're walking down in our community and be like, hey, that is a coniferous tree because it has a needle-like leaves and it has cones. Or we could say, hey, that tree in my backyard that produced a tons of leaves that I ranked up before is a deciduous tree. Okay, that's our goal. Okay, that's our goal that we want to try to achieve. So again, shed leaves, changes color, and other factors as well. So again, I try to make it super simple for everyone to understand. Again, if you're still confused or need additional example, just let me know. You can always do that as well. But again, we try to really simplify it. I try to pull out key points and examples from your textbook and show it in class live. So again, hopefully you're at your learning center right now, calling in the Wassa Studio, chatting with myself right now live, or you're at home, whether or not you're listening, but you're still watching with Onto Smart Bridget. Again, always many ways to interact live in class. So again, please make sure you take advantage of that because I want to say hi to absolutely everyone and make sure you're on the right track and I can help you with any questions or any difficulties that you may have. One last note on trees. I have found this little image, little illustrations in the past during my studies. It is an example of a tree that explains the lifestyle of First Nation lifelong learning model. Okay, this is awesome because it relates to us students and as educators and as learners. Trees again can be symbolized as growth, symbolize knowledge and wisdom. Okay, so based on these illustrations, trees has roots. Again, we're not gonna go into details about how a tree grows, etc. Again, that's for another course, for another day. But a tree has growth, and under this First Nation learning model, it symbolized many things. So again, family, ourself, our ancestors, the world, language, our clan, our community, that is our growth, that is our roots, that's where we start from. Okay, our family, our traditions, our ceremonies, that's where our roots come from. It is the source and domain of knowledge. Where we get our knowledge, understanding comes from the roots. And as we grow and as the tree grow, we have branches and we have leaves. Okay. Again, this represents the individual based on their political views. Okay. So again, your political view and my political view could be absolutely different. Again, social factors, spiritual and cultural, economics, again, that's where we branch off in terms of different values and different beliefs. Again, as a tree, we need good sunlight, we need good soil, we need water to continue to grow our branches and our leaves, and that comes from again our family, our parents, teachers, educators, community members, and elders. Okay, where they provide knowledge, values to influence, not necessarily influence, but to help you grow and help you become well in terms of how we live our lives in society. Okay, academically, personally, how we grow, how we branch off. Again, learning doesn't stop after grade 12 or after we have achieved our 30 credits and get our diploma. We're all lifelong learners who are still continuing to learn and grow as an individual and as a person within our community in so much other ways. So again, I found this way back in the day, uh, and I thought I'd like to share it with everyone. But again, we're going to look into trees, again, how we grow personally, academically, can relate to trees, how it has many different opportunities to branch out, to grab, in terms of different opportunities out there. All right, we'll stop it at there for trees. No more trees talk. We'll leave it at that. Our last topic for today's class is ecozones. Ecozones. This starts on your next page on page 48, and it continues to the next page, and next page, and the next page, and the next page. Okay, so it just continues on for a few more pages. So an ecozone is defined as natural features and human activities in a particular area. So going back to our definition of a region, it has a combination of many factors that are human activities combined and linked with natural features, stuff from nature. Okay, nature come into play, and us human and our activities come into play. Ecozones have one main characteristic in common, or could have more than one. It could be vegetation, it could be the weather, it could be the population, it could be other factors, but many may have more than one defining factors. But what we need to remember is that ecozones have natural features and human activities that come into play. Okay, so a particular area, a particular region that has these both factors. So we're going to talk about Canada's ecozones. Canada has 15 land-based ecozones and 5 marine-based ecozones. Okay, so 5 sea-based, ocean-based ecozones and 15 land-based ecozones. So again, in Canada, we have many ecozones. We are a massive big country, so that doesn't really surprise us right there. So again, remember that definition of an ecozone. On my screen, I have two maps, illustration of Canada's ecozones. On the left-hand side, you'll see Canada's terrestrial land-based ecozones, where it has different colors, along with its legend to explain and show all of the ecozones in land. On the right-hand side is another map of Canada, again also in color, based on ocean, coast to coast to coast, based on different Canada's marine-based ecozones. So again, combine all this, these are all Canada's ecozones. Some are bigger than others, some are much smaller than others, but it varies across our countries and provinces as well, provinces and territories. Don't worry, you do have this map in your textbook, and it should be in color. If not, you can help with that. Start on page 50 in your textbook. It goes into each ecozones in details in terms of what it has to offer. It could be its name, it could be different landforms, climate, weather, animals, and human interference. Sure, we can sit here and talk about each and every ecozones here in Canada, but that is not fun. That'll take a lot of time consuming, and that's not what we're here and trying to achieve. But what we need to know is the definition of the ecozones, and we're going to talk about some of the ecozones. Again, I don't expect the class to know details about every single one. Your final test, final exam doesn't talk about each and every ecozones. We don't want to do that. Okay, so just keep that in mind. What we are going to do is that we're going to talk about some, if you wanted two, three, of the ecozones. Whether it's land-based or marine-based, it doesn't really matter. Okay, but what we're trying to achieve is we want to know its name, We want to know what the landform is like in that ecozone, the climate, the animals that live there based on nature, and how our human activities impact that ecozones in a positive or a negative manner. Okay, that's our long range bigger picture goal. Okay, so again, some of these names you may have recognized, such as the prairies, the Hudson Plain, the mixed woodlands, Atlantic Maritimes, Boreal Shield, Arctic Cordelia, Northern Arctic, and so much more. In terms of marine base, again, Pacific, Arctic, Bison, Northwest Atlantic Marine, Atlantic Marine. There's so much, so much. So, as an example, I have chosen a couple examples to share with the class. Again, for your upcoming assignment, you can pick any of the ecozones that you want to choose. Okay, we'll talk more about that very, very soon. But just for example, let's look at the Boreal Shield. Boreal Shield is Canada's largest ecozone. It stretches from parts of Alberta and goes all the way towards Newfoundland. Some of its characteristics is that it has short, warm summers and cold winters. It has lots of forests, spruce, pine, birch trees. Some animals are deer, black bear, raccoons, owls, and so much more. It has lots of lakes, transportation, great for fishing, and outdoor activities. Sounds familiar? Well, the Boreal Shield is located, well, Sioux Lookout is located within this ecozone, hence why I chose it. So again, some of these characteristics that I just named may kind of ring a bell. Sure, we have lots of bears, moose, deer. We have a lot of fresh lakes. A lot of us love fishing, a lot of outdoor activities. Okay, so again, that are some characteristics that we have in this ecozone in terms of naturally and human activities. Okay, for example, you may not be able to go fishing in the Arctic region unless you're going like ice fishing for that matter. Okay, the Hudson Plain is a marine. Sorry, the Hudson Plain is another example of Canada's ecozones. It's slightly different because it impacts and located in terms of a lot of our northern communities, especially, for example, Fort Severn and all those very northern communities in terms of the Hudson Bay. Again, a lot of it's located in northern Ontario, parts of even Manitoba and Quebec. What's unique about this ecozone is that it has very limited vegetation. Okay, not great for growing things, not great for growing in general. Not many trees because it's absolutely super cold, bitter cold. It has white spruce, blueberries, geese, moose, black bears, and a bit of wetlands as well. Okay, so that's the Hudson Plains. Okay, very cold, very limited, not much to do. Polar bears, sure. You can see polar bears perhaps in that ecozones. Not so much within, again, the Boreal Shield. So again, each ecozone is unique. It has different things to offer, naturally and humanly. Pacific Marine is located out west, BC coast. It is awesome because it has rich, diverse ocean communities in terms of aquatic mammals. So seal, otters, whales, others. Great for fishing, great for tourism, great for water recreational activities. In terms of human interference, we have damaged this ecozones due to overfishing. Okay, overfishing is not cool because it destroys the ecosystem within the water and affects the food chain and affects so much others. Pollution is another factor and also destroys habitat homes. So again, you can see the humanly activities and the naturally activities. All right, so those are just some examples that I have picked and chose some of the Canada's ecozones. Again, there are so much more that goes across Canada's ecozones. Okay, so right now we're gonna switch gears and move along to your next assignment, assignment number 13. Again, a lot of definitions that you'll see come up within this assignment. Assignment 13 is out of 23 marks. First question is, what is a functional region? So again, your job is to define it. Sure, give me some examples if you like, details, but what is a functional region? Again, remember class, remember students, always write in full, complete sentences with details. Make sure you write neatly. If you want to type up your questions, sure, do that. Save it, print it, fax it, or save it, email it to me. Okay, I'm pretty flexible in terms of what's out there. Question number 2. What is the difference between weather and the term climate? And why does it mean something different? So what does weather mean? What does climate mean? And why does it mean something different? Okay, 3 marks. So again, for that question, your job, your task is to define weather is defined as this. Climate is defined as this. They both mean something different because they offer, for example, short-term and long-term conditions in terms of weather. Next, talks about trees. What are the characteristics of a coniferous tree? And the next question is, what are the characteristics of a deciduous trees? Okay, again, whether it has needle-like leaves or cones, whether it shed its leaves in the fall season. Okay, also just some examples that I'm looking for each one. Question number 5, what is an ecozone? Again, a definition. An ecozone is this. An ecozone is when we have human activities and natural features combined. Okay, what is an ecozone? And finally, the last question, you'll see a little chart. This is where you can explore. Okay, this is where you can explore. The job for this question, for this chart, is to pick any 4 ecozone that you want. Sure, you can use the example that I have given in class. Feel free to use that. But the choice is yours. You can use any ecozones you want. Sure, you can pick all 4 marine-based or all 4 land-based ecozones. I do not care. It does not matter. But your job is to pick any 4 that you want. Okay? And your job is simply to name it. What's the name of that ecozone? And where is it located? Okay? Location. Okay, sure, you can give me the general area, the province it's located. Next column, landform. How is it formed? What does it have to offer? Oh, it has mountains, it has lakes, it has hills, ridges. Okay, what kind of landform does it offer? Climate, is it hot? Is it cold? What's the seasonal average like? Okay, what's the climate of that ecozone? Animals. Okay, name some of the animals that live there. Don't have to name all of them, but just name a few so that I can get a sense, so that you can get a sense of what kind of animals that lives there. Do they have polar bears? Do they have whales? Do they have seagulls? Okay, you name it. And are there any human interference? Okay, how do we impact that particular area? Okay, some of them may not have any in regards to your textbook. Again, it could be overfishing, overhunting, uh, pollution. Okay, it could be a lot of factors. Okay, are there any human interference? Jot them down. Okay, so for this question, feel free to use jot notes. I don't expect you to write a whole paragraph for each little column, little section. So feel free to use point form. Okay, we're just trying to get a sense and trying to name characteristics within Canada's ecozones. So again, just pick four in your textbook or research about it and fill out this chart, fill out this column as best as you can. Okay. So again, like I said, I don't expect everyone to know all the ecozones. That was just not necessary. That was just overwhelming. But just pick any four that stands out to you. It could be an ecozone in your community. It could be one nearby. It could be one that sounds cool that you want to check out. Okay, the choice is yours. It doesn't matter. Okay, so that right there, class, is assignment number 13. Hopefully you can work on that right now as we speak. If you have done it, great, awesome. Move along to your next one and make sure you get it to me. Next week on Tuesday at the same time slot, we will talk about the environment. Okay, we'll talk about the environment and more current themes, more controversial themes that impacts us in terms of what is global warming and climate change. Okay, awesome, unique topic. You don't want to miss that. So make sure you tune into class next week on Tuesday to learn more about their environment. Global warming, is it actually out there? Is it true? Is it actually happening? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? Come to class on Tuesday and we can find out together. So that's where we're heading next class. Again, next class on Tuesday, same time slot. We'll be looking at global warming, climate change, how it impacts us. Is it real? Is it fake? We'll find out next week. Okay. One more thing before I go. Again, I have mentioned community visit. Next week, hopefully Barry and I will be traveling to Mish. Weather looks awesome when we looked at the weather network, so hopefully that stays like that, and we shall be there. Okay, to host a little open house, to say hi to everyone within the community, and to help those who need help with their assignments and any other course materials. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Again, it could be a last minute thing depending on the weather. I will send an email out to all the DCs. I will post it on my Facebook status. And hopefully no class will be interrupted. No class cancellation. But if that does happen, we'll deal with that when that happens. But my plan is to see everyone back here in class on Tuesday as we look at global warming and climate change. Any questions before we close things and wrap things up for today? Yes, I know it's cold. I know we just started a brand new year. But again, continue to work on your assignments. Stay warm. We'll get through this all together. This has been PLAR History Geography, mainly geography here at WASA in Silicao, and I'll see everyone back here next week. Thanks so much for listening. Have yourself a